From the stable of Kola Obadimu Junior's Playhouse, Segun Shewumi Unscripted.
For some times now, I have become burdened in my spirit about the concept of youth empowerment. And the more I burdened my soul about what does it mean to do youth empowerment, I began to be convinced that I would rather we banish the use of the word youth empowerment because there is something demeaning in expecting to be empowered. I would rather, for our own experience, begin to worry about what I like to call youth enablement. Because if you look around the world, nobody truly serves power to anybody. Those who have gone on to become champions of the environment, the Bill Gates of this world, the Zuckerberg of this world, the Forbes of this world, the Elon Musk of this world, the great disruptors of humanities, they have not been empowered, they have mainly been enabled. And when you are trying to enable young people, you must ensure that the teething problems that serve as obstacles for them first gets removed. One of them is, why should a young person not lead himself into vices when he cannot reasonably guarantee that there is a social safety net, a minimum that they cannot fall below? That's what all nations do to ensure that they can unleash their youth. People will be empowered to think their own thought without kowtowing to sycophancy or being used by people who are supposedly empowering them if they are enabled. I'll take two critical areas of experiences that I found in the world to share this, to drive home this point. The first I will use is that of the Israeli state and how they built up the startup and became the startup capitals of the world. As I researched, I found out that Shimon Peres, the former prime minister, was a critical example of what it means to do enablement as against empowerment. The story I will share is about how the world wanted to go into electronic cars. At the point they were worrying about the issues around the hydrocarbon and having no oil and feeling burdened by the politics of oil and how all of the oil was with Africa and the Arab nation, they began to tinker with the idea of cars that would not use oil. Shimon Peres had sat through many meetings where the major challenge was how would they power it, even if they wanted to do it with battery. How would they put a battery in a car? The battery will run for some time. What happens when the battery dies out? How would they charge it up? And there came a young man in Israel who went to Shimon Peres and said, I can solve this problem. Now the challenge then became, Shimon Peres not knowing anything about engineering or even about how cars work, just believed him and started to open doors for him to make his speech. And it was like Shimon Peres to phone Toyota and ask him, oh, the chairman of Toyota, are you coming in for lunch? And bring him over for lunch and invite this young man to come and pitch his idea of how they're going to do the battery and how it's going to work. When the idea finally began to light up the eyes of the big players in the automation industry, the question then became, how are they going to fund this very costly experiment? Again, it was Shimon Peres who went and figured out how venture capital will help him create a company, give him the resources to experiment, not even being sure whether it will be successful or it will not. Today, you have a growing market of cars that runs on battery because a leader tried to enable a young man. There are thousands of that example. If it was here in Africa, what you would have seen underneath a youth empowerment would have been probably at the very best one leader would put a little bit of money, not enough to feed, not enough to swim, in the man's hand and begin to think of how he's going to take over his ideas, or how he's going to be the owner of ideas, or how he's going to sit on board of his company and just sniff out all the creativity from him. That's one example.
Ṣẹ́gun Ṣówùnmí Unscripted.